everybody. Welcome to today's podcast. Um, as you know, today we've kind of been doing we're kind of doing a series on keywords, and today's topic is going to be keywords in general. Last week we talked about match types, and there'll be a link below to check that out. There'll also be a link below to our Bing Ads program. We're getting very close to closing the first phase of that down and launching those campaigns. A couple of our current clients are already in beta testing for that product, and we are planning on unrolling the first wave of Bing ads for our new clients as well. So there'll be a link below to sign up for the remaining spots for that as well. But today, let's dive in. Let's talk about keywords. Let's figure this thing out, right? So if you're a small business owner, or you're the marketing person at a small business, odds are you've been running some sort of pay-per-click campaign, or you are trying to get a handle on your business's, your website's SEO. And you understand that there are keywords, and you understand that, there's certain ones you definitely want to have, an association with, and certain ones obviously that you don't. But what keywords do you want, and what keywords should you be optimizing for, and what keywords should you be bidding on in your PPC campaigns, and what, whether you're running Google ads or Bing ads or whatever you're doing, and how do you pick those terms? What kinds of terms are there? A lot of people don't know that there are 9 types of keywords, which is interesting. We're going to cover those. We're going to cover like the different types there are, why they're important, what to do with them. What might be best for your business may not be best for everybody's, but hopefully, today my goal is to make sure that you've learned something about keywords and their use in both your pay-per-click campaigns and your website's SEO. So let's dive in and talk about those. The first thing I'm going to cover is just the different types and kind of explain those a little bit. The first type is the most common type. It's the short tail keyword. These are keywords that are 3 words or less long. They tend to be very broad. They tend to be extremely high competition. Basically, that means that everybody in the industry is bidding on them. So, if you're a real estate agent, sell my home or buy a house would be an example of popular short tail keywords that every single real estate website and every single real estate pay-per-click advertiser is bidding on, which means that when you're running that in a pay-per-click campaign, you need to adjust your bid, to match, so you'll actually show up for that term. While I don't say that you should never utilize these terms, I do say that using them sparingly is probably your best bet. When I'm building out a pay-per-click campaign, I don't utilize those terms quite as much, mainly because of the cost associated with it. And the other side of it is that there are so many like older websites that have been in existence for a very long time and have a tremendous amount of SEO juice, have a tremendous amount of visitors. And like, for example, Zillow.com would be an example of a real estate website that's going to dominate for buy a house. They're that popular. They'll dominate in every market for that term almost every time. So is it smart to compete for that term? It's smart to enable it in your SEO campaigns for sure. And it's smart to include it in your pay-per-click campaigns, but I would not run a pay-per-click campaign with, a bunch of short tail keywords, because you are going to lose your bidding strategy, your bids every single time. The next type is long tail keywords. So I feel like now that you know what short tail keywords are, long tail keywords should be pretty self-explanatory. But they are terms that are 4 words or longer. So more specific terms, correct? You would be thinking like, this might be something like sell my home for the most money. Or, if you're a retail outlet, it might be buy men's size 14 shoes, or whatever the case may be, the long tail keyword. Now, benefits, detractions from long tail. Long tail keywords are great. They convert and they're low competition. So right off the bat, you've got some winners right there if you're able to incorporate those in your pay-per-click campaigns, and they're easier to rank for. So if you were to, you could rank for that shoe keyword, or you could rank for some of those other long-term keywords on the SEO side. But I do say the biggest problem with long tail keywords is that they are so specific that a lot of times you can really get down a rabbit hole and kind of pigeon it down to like something that's an extremely low search volume. And you really don't want that either. You don't want a real low search volume term, because then you're just not going to be making any impressions on the SERP. So I don't, I utilize them quite a bit, and I think that they're very important. I utilize these more than I use short tail keywords, but I would just be careful as to how long you make that search term, because you can get real granular and then you're really kind of filtering your search down to, a minimal number of people that are actually utilizing that search term. So the third type of term that I want to talk about are what they call short-term keywords. Now, short-term keywords are things that are gonna like explode in popularity to start, but then they have a quick drop off. So, in the article, we use the example of 2020 Oscar nominees, right? So right now and for the next couple months, that term is going to be hot. It's going to be used on all kinds of websites. It's going to be trending. It's going to be all over. Come May, probably not. Next year, even less. It has a short lifespan of popularity. Now, to maximize the use of a short-term keyword, what you want to do is have some relevant content created on your website that is timely and kind of associated with your short-term keywords. So for example, if you are let's say you're an entertainment website, obviously you may want to have a couple articles about the 2020 Oscars, or, you may have an article about the Golden Globes, which was just recently. So those kinds of terms, but they're not something that you're going to want to have a ton of focus on, because they're going to be super expensive for a short period of time. Everybody's going to be bidding for this term or that term or whatever. So just be mindful of those. I'm not saying don't use them, because clearly they definitely have a value. It's just a matter of, when to use them and how to use them. I would say very judiciously would be my advice for short-term keywords. Now, obviously, their doppelganger, their El Kabong, if you will, is the long-term keyword. Long-term keywords are great because they last forever. These are things that just don't go away. They maintain their popularity now. However, they are not in the explosive popularity category that short-term keywords are. They're going to have like a more steady kind of popularity and steady sort of search volume, which is good. You want that kind of stability. You don't want to have to constantly be going into your AdWords account or your Bing account or whatever and switching up your bids and your keywords all the time. These are things that you can kind of let roll in your account. I like to think of them like this, if I'm, to use my favorite sport analogy, your short-term keyword is a Mark McGwire. They are they are a term that's going to hit a lot of home runs, but they have like a 250 average. Whereas your long-term keywords are going to be more like a Pete Rose. They're going to hit consistently for a long time. So mixing them up, mixing these into your campaigns or your SEO strategy, very, very helpful. You can really benefit greatly from doing that. The next one I want to talk about is product defining keywords. Now these are service defining keywords, one or the other. These keywords are basically just modifiers that you're going to use to sort of really hone in. Now these are going to be extremely specific, so your search volume is going to be kind of low, but these tend to be very high intent people who are just kind of in the early stages of the purchasing process. So for example, you may want to use I may have a chain a line of basketball shoes out, like Nike has Air Maxes, right? And there's all these different types of Air Maxes. And so somebody may use the term like Nike Air Max 42, or whatever. And typically what that person's doing is they kind of know what they want. They want to make sure that they're finding the best thing, so they're searching that way. So product defining keywords or even service defining keywords are really good if you're trying to find like that person that's looking to educate themselves a little bit, but is definitely still in the mindset of I'm going to purchase. That's huge. And so you definitely want to have product and service defining keywords, which are the same thing in your strategies, both on the pay-per-click side and on the SEO side. Then there are consumer defining keywords. Consumer defining keywords help you speak directly to your audience. One of the criticisms of pay-per-click campaigns in general is that they seem kind of impersonal. They're short, there's not a lot of text, there's no images, it's very dry, right? But you can really speak to the consumer by defining them in your ad. Like if we're talking about, let's say we're using mortgages, for example. So let's say you're a mortgage broker. What you can do is you can say the best mortgage products for a first-time home buyer. That first-time home buyer modifier just spoke to the consumer that you're actually trying to communicate with. Or you can say, great loan products for millennials, or the best way to refinance if you're retired or whatever. You can really kind of, if you define your audience using those terms, they're great on both sides of the equation. They're great in pay-per-click to speak to the consumer, and they're great for SEO as well, because a lot of times people don't think to like modify their SEO terms in that fashion. And those are some ways that you can start to pick up rankings, especially in higher competition industries. So I'm definitely a big fan of consumer defining keywords. And like I said, these are more like modifiers. Millennial itself isn't a keyword. It would be a short tail keyword. It wouldn't necessarily be a keyword I would be using, but product for millennials, or something for millennials would be something I would do, or for baby boomers or whatever, women, men, teens, whatever your market is. That's what you want to do. You want to really define your consumer using those terms. The next one is latent semantic indexing. Latent semantic indexing is a fancy term that just means related terms. Let's say you are selling, lemons. And so you may want to have things associated with your lemon search, like lemon tea, lemon zest, lemon squares, things like that. So you want to kind of broaden your audience by utilizing those terms. These are really helpful, like I said, kind of more on the broad side. You're not going to get a lot of conversion from these keywords. You'll get some traffic, that's for sure. You'll definitely increase your traffic, but your general, if you're trying to convert people on like the sales side right away, these are not the best terms to be using. Although I do think latent semantic indexing is great to capture different types of searches. So for example, like our office is in Metro Detroit, I might use Motor City in my keywords, or if you're in New York, you might use the Big Apple, or whatever. I wonder if New Yorkers even call it the Big Apple. I always wondered about that. New Yorkers, if you're watching this, tell me, do you guys call your city the Big Apple, or is that something that, us Midwesterners do? I'm really curious about that. The next kind of keyword that I want to talk about a little bit is intent keywords. These are really good filtration for your traffic. So for example, let's say, we'll go back to the example of a real estate agent. If you're a real estate agent and you, let's say you have pages, you want to put content on your website that educates people, like, hey, tips for, first-time home buyers, or ways to sell your home for more money, or whatever the case may be, including like those things like learn how, tips for, how to, using that and filtering that content there takes your consumer to what they're actually looking for. It speaks to their intent, right? So when you're speaking to someone's intent level, that means that they're actually finding a relevant search term. And this is great for like actually providing value to the consumer. So, you want to, like, if, for example, if I'm like, learn how to sell my home for more money, and instead of going to a website that actually teaches me how to sell my home, it's a website that's like no, list with us, we'll do it all. Like, that's not what I was trying to do. It doesn't really speak to my intent. For example, for this blog, I'm not going to do hire an SEO company or hire a pay-per-click expert. My keyword for this blog or keywords for this blog might be learn how to run pay-per-click campaigns, or tips for small business SEO. Those would be some terms I would use, because this is not a sales pitch. I'm not here selling you anything. I'm here really just trying to educate and inform and try to help. That's kind of that's sort of the value side of Posh Digital Media, is that, we record these every Friday, and occasionally, yeah, there are things that are a little more sales oriented. A couple weeks ago when we rolled out the Bing, our Bing ads product, or, next quarter when we launch another product, or whatever the case may be. But like this right now, you're learning. If you're paying attention, I'm hoping that you're learning something. And I'm hoping that, you get some value from this if you're doing this on your own. I do know that I even have clients right now that they've hired us for one service, but they're still kind of maintaining their pay-per-click campaigns or whatever. And, so hopefully this helps them. This might add value to my clients as well. So I'm happy to do this. And I like discussing this stuff. I get made fun of a lot. My girlfriend likes to pick on me because she thinks I'm such a nerd, because I like to talk about digital marketing so much. But I really do love what I do, and I love this stuff. And so, the intent-based keyword is something that is important, and it's really good. And so, like, if you're building like a really good keyword strategy, I would combine some of these. I would start combining, like, intent-based with, consumer defining. So I might say, well, I just did one a second ago. SEO tips for small business owners, or, pay-per-click tips for, mortgage brokers, something like that. Those would be some really good ways to combine keyword types. And so when you're combining keyword types and then you utilize the match types like we talked about last week, you can really start to run effective pay-per-click campaigns. That's, those are huge. And then the last one that I want to talk about is a little obvious. It's geography. So, best marketing company in Michigan, or, top realtor in New York City, or whatever the case may be. Just a geographic modifier can help as well. Obviously, that's another one that's sort of kind of almost is sort of it's a modifier. It sort of speaks to the consumer a little bit too. Obviously, if you're a small business and you own a store and it's located in, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and you don't do online sales, it makes no sense for you to speak to somebody in Texas, because they're not going to be able to buy your product. But if you're in a certain area or you sell online, it's a little different. You don't necessarily have to have that geographic modifier. So those are the 9 different types of keywords. I think I got them all. I got short tail, long tail, short term, long term, geography, LSI, consumer, product, and then of course intent. So those are the 9 types of keywords and modifiers that you can use. I do want to talk a little bit about some mistakes that I see a lot of my either like current clients or prospective clients making in their general pay-per-click campaigns. First one is, I think a lot of them are overstuffing their keywords, especially in their PPC campaigns. They are using so many keywords, and so many keywords that don't matter. They don't do anything for them. They'll get a click on it, or they might get 2 clicks on it, or whatever the case may be. But they're bidding for it, which means that they're paying for it. And especially if they're using some of these automated bid strategies. And by the way, next week, we're going to talk about bid strategies for keywords. That's another huge factor for these types of ads. So if you want to learn how to use bid strategies, make sure you tune in next week. It's going to be a longer, deeper dive, and it'll probably get a little technical, but it's these things that we're talking about these next few weeks, like last week, this week, next week, are so important if you're trying to do this stuff. Whether you're trying to get your SEO performance up, or you're trying to get your pay-per-click campaigns to work. These are things that people are, they're missing out on. And like I said, once again, they're using way too many keywords, and they're paying for clicks that don't matter. They're paying for clicks and things that aren't converting, or bringing traffic that isn't worthwhile. And we want to make sure that, when we're running a campaign, we're making sure that, the keywords that we're utilizing in your campaign are going to be the ones that convert. They're going to be the ones that bring that higher intent, person to your site to, to eventually purchase or hire you. And that's a huge thing. And then the other big mistake I see a lot of people making, and this one, it kind of goes hand in hand with this, is they're utilizing super broad search terms. They're not real. They're focusing only on those high value terms, which is fine. But here's a pro tip. If you are, let's say you sell shoes, you're not going to outbid Nike for basketball shoes. That keyword is not going to be yours. You have to start modifying and changing those terms to assist you in winning bids. This is how we outrank big stores. This is how we outrank Amazon for search terms. This is how we get better impression shares and click rates from Zillow and Realtor.com. This is how we beat Quicken Loans on our mortgage side. This is how Posh beats these big time companies in ad performance. And people think I might be bragging or even, making these things up. I can show you the statistics anytime. We consistently outrank these companies for key metrics on ad performance. So yeah, Zillow might be $1 billion company or, multi-billion-dollar company with millions of dollars in advertising, but their strategies are outdated. Most of these companies' strategies are outdated. They're not using really good pay-per-click strategies to get these ads going. And that's the difference. I think, we actually, we go through the certification process on these ads every year, making sure that, we're on top of the latest developments. We get a lot of beta testing products, delivered here from Google and other advertising mechanisms. So we're able to provide service to our clients. And if that's something that you want to do, let's say you're running your pay-per-click campaigns and you're just, you're throwing your hands up in the air and you want to hire Posh, let us know. Give us a call, fill out the form on the website, poke around, learn some stuff, whatever. But the point is that like, we all benefit when everyone's running better pay-per-click campaigns. We all benefit from this. So, hire Posh Digital Media if you're interested in getting these campaigns going for you. Other than that, that's about it. I know this was a little long today, and I know it was kind of deeper in the weeds, but that's where you really get the benefit when you are going deeper on some of these things. So next week we are going to talk about bidding. We're going to teach you how to bid on keywords, and we're going to talk about the different types of bidding strategies that exist. So tune in next week, and then hopefully those of you that are thinking about joining the Bing campaign rollout, we've got a couple spots left. So sign up for that down below here. I'll put the link, below the video. But other than that, take care. Have a great day. And thanks for joining the Poshcast today, guys.